Let me start over again. Okay, I wasn't recording, so bear with me. I've got to go back over my talking points. The Trump Musk fight. Two of the worst human beings in the history of the world are arguing, fighting with each other, but both of them have been involved in the systematic destruction of the United States government. That's what that chainsaw wielding, drug addled moron. And yet, he is not the genius he keeps being portrayed as. He's a great brander. I'm talking about Musk. Trump is also a great brander. But both of them are scam artists. They've always been that way. That's how Elon Musk made his money. He took over Tesla, which was started by other people. He put his name on it, or put his brand on it, and basically edged the other people out. Yeah, he never invented a rocket, but he everybody touts how great he is because of SpaceX. Let's None of his Starship rockets have actually reached outer space. All of them have crashed. The man is not a genius. The man is a brander. Period. Donald Trump is a brander. Period. They're not geniuses. They're not concerned about you. They're not concerned about the American people or the U.S. government. They're not concerned about anything. Donald Trump is using the White House as an ATM machine where he doesn't have to put money into it. Other people are putting money into his account. That's what's going on with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. They've done so much damage to this country. They've done so much damage to the rule of law. They they you're ignoring everything that made this country great. Donald Trump has no clue. Now he wants this idiotic parade on the 14th because he quote wants to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, which is something that should be celebrated. But the only reason he wants this parade is because that's also his birthday. We all know that. Because in addition to that, the United States Navy and the United States Marine Corps also have their 250th birthdays this year, but no planned presidential parade or military parade for those two branches of the military. I served in the Marines and I'm happy and I am proud of my service. But if I was an active duty Marine and they said, well, we're going to do a parade for Donnie Dipshit, uh, I would find a reason to get out of going there. So this Saturday, the protests that are going to happen, I'm going to be rain or shine. I don't care what's happening. I'm going to be at the Martinsburg, West Virginia uh, protest on June 14th. Why? Because there is no way a draft dodger piece of garbage like Donald Trump should ever be honored by the United States military. He got out of serving his country by having a doctor falsify medical records. His daddy paid his doctor to falsify medical records. I will not celebrate a man who did that. Now, I don't have problems with people who actually didn't go to Vietnam or dodged the draft on political or real reasons. I have no problem with that. People who went to Canada that didn't want to go, I understand that because, going to a war that really accomplished nothing and the handwriting was on the wall for that, it never, it was just really that important. Okay. They didn't want to go and they didn't want to go for various reasons, political, and in some cases, yeah, just being scared. Understood. That happens in every war. But Donald Trump had that enormous advantage. He had a rich daddy who would pay for uh, a doctor to falsify medical records saying he had bone spurs. Guess what, folks? I served 6 years in the Marines. I was an engineer in the Marines. I had and did have then bone spurs in my ankles. I still do. I had them the entire time I served in the Marines. I also had torn cartilage in my knee, my right knee, that I served my entire 6 years as a Marine, came out as a sergeant with an injury I got in high school. I served. And had we gone to war, I would have gone. I would have said, aye, aye, sir, I'm on my way. That's the way it works. But to have this piece of garbage sit there and tell us he had bone spurs when he was on his college tennis team, I'm sorry, but he was never injured. I mean, oh God, I get started on that and I can't stop. The thing is, when he called the Marines who died at Belleau Wood, this is where the Marine Corps really got its reputation as a true fighting force for this country. Always had been, but that's where the world got to view the Marine Corps as what it really was, one of the elite fighting forces of the world at Belleau Wood when they stopped a German advance on Paris, stopped it in their tracks. They took such heavy casualties that the ranks of the Marine Corps were severely dissipated because of that battle. To have Donald Trump refuse to go to the cemetery because it was raining and it would mess up his hair, and he asked this stupid question, what was in it for them? Yeah, stupid question. It wasn't, they didn't look at it that way. People who serve in military service do not look at it like, what am I going to get out of this? It's what John Kennedy said at his inauguration. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That is the essence of military service. You're doing for your country, you're giving back the freedom, you're defending the freedom that made this country great. Now, granted, I'm not, I mean, unlike the revisionist history that you hear from the maggot crowd and the idiots on the right side of Congress, they love to try and bury history. I mean, Pete Hegseth, they've taken Harvey Milk's name off of a Navy ship. Harvey Milk served in the Navy. He served during a war. He had more combat experience than Pete Hegseth has. And yeah, Peter Hegseth, well, I don't care if he was in Iran or I mean, in Iraq or Afghanistan. He wasn't. He didn't have the military experience that Harvey Milk had. They want to take John Lewis's name off of ships. I mean, come on. That they tried to bury Jackie Robinson's contribution to history. First, as his military service in World War II, and then the hero to millions of kids. He's always been one of my heroes. Why? Because he was a great ball player. And he grew up in Southern California the way I did. Yeah, he was born in the South, but he grew up in the South end of California. Okay, that's all I got. I'm going to say on that. Uh, Going back to these ice raids in L.A. in the Southern California, these ice raids were done like this. These sweeping raids at Home Depots and children's elementary school graduations and restaurants, and just going in and just grabbing people. Where are the dangerous lunatic criminals that they were going supposed to go after? Please show me one of these people who was just going to work or just going to watch their child graduate from elementary school. Where's the danger? Where's These are just people doing what people did in this country from the beginning. They came here looking for better lives. That's all. That's why we have such a problem at the border, or have had such a problem. People were coming here for a better lives. My family immigrated to Canada from Britain and then immigrated to Iowa from Canada and then spanned out across the Midwest and Southern California, where I'm from. They all did it for the simple reason they were looking for a better life. They were looking for a place to raise their children in a free society. And yes, the military service of many of these people who came here looking for that better life is exemplary. Audie Murphy, case in point. His grandparents were Irish immigrants. They came here looking for a better life. That man was the most decorated soldier of World War II and a personal hero of mine. That's what people do when they come here. They, Immigrants come here, they are so thankful. And, some of my grandmother's uh, stories of her grandmother when they came here were so grateful to this country for giving them a chance not just to survive, but to thrive, that they made everything. They wanted to give whatever they could back to the country. That's what people do when they come here. Yeah, there's criminals in every group. I mean, Al Capone was himself an Italian immigrant. But let's the difference between Al Capone and the people that Donald Trump and Tom Homan, trained monkey man, are doing is Al Capone, as bad as he was, a horrible person, a career criminal, he got due process. He was afforded due process. Why? Because it was required under the Constitution of the United States. Abrego Garcia has not receive due process. He was just rounded up, threw up on a, thrown on a plane, and exiled to a country he was that the government said a Trump appointed judge said, do not send this guy back to El Salvador. And now Pam Bondi and all, they've been bending over backwards trying to prove that this guy's a bad guy. You know, Trump's word. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Prove it. That's what due process is about. Give these people a chance to defend themselves. That's what due process is about. That's what habeas corpus is. You have the right to defend yourself in a court of law when you are charged with a crime. The government who is charging these people with a crime have the burden of proof. They are not exempt from proving the guilt of the people they're trying to disappear. That's what the Constitution says. You have a right. You have a right to a jury trial. You have a right to attorneys. That's what the Miranda rights, when everybody's familiar with them. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney and have your attorney present during questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. These are Miranda rights. That was a criminal who was arrested back in late 50s or whatever, who was able to get out of jail because he was never, these rights were never explained to him. Now, here cops, my uncle was a deputy sheriff in LA County. He had nothing good to say about having to do the Miranda rights. A lot of cops did back then. That's normal. It was a change, but now it's ingrained. It's part of the fabric. To make sure people are aware of their rights is a fundamental function of our government. People have rights under our form of government. You have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say it. But here's the thing, the government also they also have to tell you under habeas corpus why you're being arrested. Many of the people who are being arrested right now in these immigrant sweeps are not being told why they're being arrested. And yes, American citizens are being swept up in this. There's a case just a few weeks ago where an American citizen born and raised in Georgia had a Hispanic name was taken into ICE custody in Florida, and the judge refused to let him out of jail initially because he said, "Well, that's an ICE thing. It's out of my hands." No, it's not. You're a judge. You have proof given to you that the guy that was arrested for being an illegal alien or undocumented is the actual correct term. And when that proof is provided to you, you're supposed to let the guy go. That is how the law is supposed to work. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm smart enough to know that the first 10 amendments, all of that is in there. If you're an American citizen, you should not be taken into custody and held without bond for being an undocumented American. If you got proof that you're not undocumented, that you are an American citizen, such as mine, I have my birth certificate. You have to have it to get a driver's license. I had a driver's license. They still threw him in an ICE detention center and held him there for I don't know how long. Now, as far as the June 14th protests, like I've mentioned before, and I've said it on Facebook many times, I will be there, and I will be wearing this. Why? Because I want the people to know that not all of the military, not every American, not all Marines, we're not monoliths. We are thinking Americans, and I love my country. That is why I served in the Marines. That is why I grew up thinking that my country could do no wrong, because I love this country. I love the fact that we have a constitution that guarantees us the right to free speech, the right to peaceably assemble. And this is what I want to stress most at these protests this coming weekend on the 14th. Be peaceful. Do not provoke the police. Do not poke the bear, as some would say. Make the government make the first aggressive move, and make sure you're documenting. Make sure you have a camera with you, whether it be your cell phone or a video camera, whatever you have. Make sure you have it with you and you are recording. That way, we can get it out there, because like it was said this morning on the weekend on MSNBC, they can't arrest all of us. They can't. Now, I be honest with you, with some of the videos I've posted and some of the things I've posted on Facebook, I'm surprised I haven't been arrested. I'm actually shocked that I haven't been arrested. I'm also, but yeah, I have gotten some emails, and I usually delete them immediately. But the next time I get one, I am going to go ahead and share it so people can see how stupid our opposition is. The first two was from two different people, but when I looked at it, it turned out not to be two different people. They were threatening my life and my family, who I live with my son and his family. They were threatening me and them. Okay, unacceptable. It didn't scare me. I actually laughed when I saw these emails. It was hilarious. To me, it was funny, because if you're going to send me an anonymous email threatening my life, that tells me you're just like Donald Trump and Elon Musk. You're a fucking coward. You are not brave enough to stand in front of a crippled old man and threaten him. So when, if I get another one of these emails threatening my family, just remember, if you are watching this video and you are one of those people that wants to send me an email, a threatening email, you better have the balls to stand in front of me and threaten me, and then see what happens. Because even though I've got arthritis everywhere and standing and walking hurts, you are not going to come through it unscathed. Believe me, I'm not just a former Marine, I am also a former correctional officer. I do know how to protect myself. You're forewarned if you try to do these things. Then I got one, and I'm now certain uh, that it was also a fake email from from the same cowards, claiming to be from the Department of Justice, or borrow a phrase from Donald Trump, the Department of Injustice, because that's what's happening now. They're, they they wanted me to cease and desist from calling Donald Trump Donnie Dipshit. Guess what, folks? I'm not going to stop calling Donald Trump Donnie Dipshit. I'm not going to stop calling him Taco Man. The man's a coward. And yeah, he has enormous power, and he's using that power like a coward would. Yes, Donald Trump, I'm talking to you. I hope this video gets to you. You, sir, are a craven coward because you want to wield enormous power to suppress, to fear, to frighten, and to bully the American people into following you. Ain't gonna work, folks. Donald Trump, that ain't gonna work. This country was founded as a free country. We stood up to an idiot like you back in 1776. Sorry about that. And again in 1812. And again in 1941. You, sir, are a coward. Adolf Hitler was a coward. A whole lot of people, would look and say, well, how can Adolf Hitler be a coward? Every action that man took was a cowardly act by scapegoating vulnerable populations. Sound familiar? That cowardly. Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, look, this is the problem. We are the problem. We have to fix it. No. He said, no, the Jews are the problem. The Jews are the problem. And anybody who's not a white, blue eyed, blonde haired, you know, Thor like person is subhuman. They considered Slavic people subhuman. They considered black, Africans subhuman. Anybody who was not a white Aryan, they considered subhuman. Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, many of the other people in his government all believe that too. They all believe that if you are black, Hispanic, uh, or any ethnic group, including the indigenous population here, they have swept up several indigenous people in some of these raids who are born in this country. Their ancestry predates any Europeans or Asians in this country, but they're being swept up too. Why? Because they look Hispanic. And that's the reason. And then they got to jump through hoops to prove that they're American citizens. This is not the way it's supposed to work. We are supposed to be a free and democratic nation. That's what our first three words of the preamble of the Constitution, we the people. And I know people have posted or argued on my some of my posts that we are not a democracy. Yes, we are. One guy actually said that that was just when Abraham Lincoln wrote in his Gettysburg Address that we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall never perish. He tried to convince me that was just Abraham Lincoln's opinion. No, he was just looking at the Constitution, understood the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and understood that that's exactly what this is. We are a nation of the people, for the people, by the people. We are a democratic republic. We always have been since the adoption of the Constitution of the United States. That is the governing principle of the United States: democracy and democratic republic, which means we choose our leaders, which means, and I have repeated this many times on Facebook, we are the boss of the government. We, the people. That's what those first three words mean. We are the people. We, the people, are the United States government. The government works for us. We do not serve the government. The government is there to serve us. That is just full stop. That is the way it works. That is the way our Constitution is written. That's the way democracy works. The people in that democracy are the ones in charge of it. So when you get people to say, well, my vote doesn't count, that's bullshit. That is bullshit. Your vote only doesn't count when you don't use it. Use your vote. You go out, you go. Go today, go Monday, go wherever, whenever. Register to vote. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting Donnie Dipshit like characters trying to suppress us, trying to turn us into a fascist dictatorship. Vote. Vote. That is your basic fundamental American right as an American citizen. You get to choose your leaders. And when, like with Donald Trump, he didn't get the landslide he claims and all of his sycophants do. He didn't get a landslide. He didn't even win a majority of the people who voted. He just got more people voted for him than for Kamala Harris. That's it. He didn't get the majority of the Republican Party. He didn't get a majority. He did not win in a landslide. And yes, there are some questions, and I've heard them and I see them on my Facebook page all the time. People are saying that perhaps the rigging of the election that Donald Trump claimed happened in 2020 may have actually happened to support Donald Trump. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. All I know is people weren't listening to the common sense of Kamala Harris. They were listening to the nonsense and word salad answers of Donald Trump. What and I'm going to ask this again of Donald Trump and his government. How are these ICE raids lowering grocery prices? How is that happening? How are these ICE raids? How are the things that you're doing? How is that making life better for average Americans? Your big idiotic bill, and I will refuse to call it the word he uses because it's not beautiful. As Elon Trump, one of the few things I've ever agreed with him on. Elon Musk, I mean, Elon Trump. Might as well. You're making an amalgamation of both names. It's an abomination. It is the worst piece of garbage ever gotten through the House of Representatives. It is horrible. And those of you, I had somebody on my Facebook page tell me that I was a numbskull because I believed that Social Security was going to be attacked. Well, guess what, folks? It's been attacked. People are already not getting their Social Security checks. Some people who have worked all of their lives and are still alive are being counted as dead, and their Social Security information is being deleted from the department. How is that making America great? How is the richest person in the world taking food and medicine out of the mouths and lives of the poorest people in the world? How is that making America great? It makes us look like a bunch of evil, miserly pieces of crap. That is not making America great. Forcing people to medicate. I have two granddaughters who were born with the help of Medicaid. Their medical expenses for them were at least partially paid by Medicaid. My son works. My daughter in law works. They always did, but they have needed in the past and will need again assistance with medical bills. That is not rocket science. It happens. Both work, both pay bills, and two grandchildren who were covered under Medicaid. Now they're going to try and take it away. They want to try and take away SNAP benefits. So hungry kids that already exist in this country are going to get hungry. Why? Because Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and other billionaires who don't need any handouts are getting handouts from our current government. And if anybody who's in our situation, like me, I get all of my income through Social Security. That is my entire income. I do not have any other source of income. I moved in with my son and his family because I have no other source of income. And when Donald Trump got elected again, one of the first things that they said they were going to come after is Section 8 housing, which is where I was living before. I had an apartment, which was government subsidized. I moved out of that because I was absolutely certain that the Trump administration was going to come after Section 8 housing for elderly and disabled people. It's happening, folks. It's happening. And if you can sit there and say, well, he's doing what's right for the country, wrong. He's not doing anything right for the country. Donald Trump is using our federal government as a money laundering machine. And he's doing it out in the open, so he thinks everybody's okay with it. No. That, that dinner he had, where the people who put the most money into his crypto meme coin bullshit got to have dinner with him. And then he kind of dissed them. I mean, get a clue, people. He's not doing anything for your benefit. He's doing all of it for his. That's it. He's hired the worst cabinet in the history of the country. We do not have one functioning brain cell between the two people running the FBI. We do not have an honest secretary of, attorney general. We've got the most incompetent defense secretary in the history of the country. Believe me, folks, he did not hire the best people. And now we got a 22-year-old going to be in charge of what is it? Assessing threats, you know, terrorist threats. The kid's just out of college. He's never worked in government before, but because he wants to be in the I'm going to kiss Donald Trump's ass line. He, he's not going to be in charge of one of the most crucial departments in Homeland Security. I mean, get a clue, people. This is not normal. This is not right, and it is not making America great again. It's making us poor again. Donald Trump wants us to go back to the quote golden age. That's what he said, the golden age. He's mixing that word up. I don't think he knows the difference between gilded and golden. The difference is when we had the gilded age, we had systems like that. We had major corporations. We had the Vanderbilt, uh, to, all of these industrialists making massive amounts of money off of the backs of poor people who they had working for basically slave labor wages, uh, children working in factories and coal mines and so on, and garment factories in New York. I mean, come on, people. That's what they want to go back to. That's why they're trying to relax the child labor laws in this country. That is not making America great again. You know when we were great? From 1951 until 1980. That was the greatest period of growth, both politically and economically, in our history. We became the leader of the free world through our, first off, through our contributions to winning World War II, and then rebuilding Europe and Asia after the war. That's what made us great then. That's what made us look like the great people that we were. Well, we had people who tried to subdue that, to subvert that. I mean, Joe Senator McCarthy, who actually accused Dwight Eisenhower of being a communist. I mean, it was as ridiculous then as it is now. Now, people say, well, we can't have socialism. Well, we've had socialism in this country for decades, for well over a century. We have paved roads paid for by our tax dollars. We have an interstate uh, system in this country paid for by our uh, tax dollars. We have police, fire, the FBI. We have the Social Security Department. We have Medicare, Medicaid. We have had socialism in this country for years. There is a difference between democratic socialism and communist socialism. Communist socialism forces people to be poor. North Korea, Cuba, the people there are not allowed to get rich. They are forced into poverty by their government, which is what kind of like what's happening now with our capitalist system. We have a shrinking middle class. One that was once in the years that I mentioned, we had the greatest middle class in history in this country. And rich people who were rich then and are still rich now, and their descendants, was still rich, but they were paying between 75 and 90% income tax, which is how we were able to afford to build a interstate highway system and our airports and our rails and all these other things that benefited the whole country, not just the wealthy. Okay, that is how democratic socialism works. When we had strong unions in this country, we had strong labor. We had a thriving middle class, people who were doing better than their parents and had a reasonable expectation of their children doing better than they did. I don't know anybody who could look at a system like that and say, "Well, that's wrong." No, that's the way it's supposed to be. That is why we were so great in the 50s. Now, we had our problems in those times. The segregation. We had, uh, like I said, Joseph McCarthy, who wanted us to turn our neighbors in if we suspected that they were communists. Yeah, there were problems, but we worked through them. In the 60s, we had a war that by the end of the 1960s, 2/3 of the population of the United States was against. Why? Because we never saw a benefit of the war. We never saw any chance of making a better life for anybody, including the people of Vietnam. It just boggles my mind that people will remember that war fondly. It's usually the people who didn't fight it that remember it fondly. Donald Trump, Elon Musk. Elon Musk never served in any branch of the military. Donald Trump never served in any branch of the military. But they want to talk tough about how we're, you know, Donald Trump wants us to believe that he's a strong leader. Guess what? He's not. Volodymyr Zelensky is a strong leader. That is one heroic man. He might have been at the beginning of his presidency ill prepared, but he stepped up. He grew into the job and he grew into the leader his people needed. That's what we need here now. We need a real leader in the White House. Now, I don't know who the Democrats are going to nominate for president in 28. At this point, I don't really care who it is. What I do want is anybody. I mean, even if Joe Biden was just a brain in a jar, he would still be a better president than the idiot we have in the White House now. And yes, he is an idiot. And he is in full blown dementia. He probably, probably has beginning stages of Alzheimer's. The man cannot put a complete thought together, cannot speak in complete sentences. And when he does talk, he rambles off into the nonsense. I mean, it's like when he was speaking at that convention or whatever during the campaign of New York business leaders, and he was asked about childcare. Now, I'm not going to go back and rehash it. If you want to look at it, you can see it. It's on YouTube, and see if you can actually find an answer in his answer. And people in that audience clapped. They applauded, even though not a friggin' word that came out of his mouth made any sense at all. It was just thrown out a bunch of random words, and he probably in his mind thought it was the greatest answer in the history of the world. But the reality is, it was nonsense and insane, like everything he's done. Nonsense and insane. Okay, now I'm going to get into Bruce Springsteen and Taylor Swift. They are right now what Richie Havens and uh, Jefferson Airplane and other, Bob Dylan and so on, musicians of the 60s and early 70s. They're doing what was being done now. We need more of our celebrities, of more of our artists to turn their attention into resisting the nonsense that we're seeing coming out of the White House. I mean, Donald Trump's entire brand is I'm stupid and I want everybody to be as stupid as I am. I'm sorry, but not everybody's as stupid as you are, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, when somebody like Bruce Springsteen gives an honest opinion, gets out on stage and uses his platform to draw attention to what is going on in our government. And I stress it, our government, we the people, our government. And Donald Trump loses his shit over it. We need more and more and more people doing it. Now, I watch uh, every week, I watch the monologue from Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel every week, every night that they're on. Why? Because they're doing the same thing. They're using their voices to call out the bullshit of the Trump administration, the insanity. Jon Stewart does the same thing. Everybody on that you know, on that platform is doing that. We need more people doing that. We need more celebrities who oppose Donald Trump and his evil fascist regime, and that's what they are, fascists. We need more voices out there saying this is wrong. We need to change it. That's how we got the changes in the 70s. Because people are out there. I mean, from 1961 to 1975, I think was the strongest this country's ever been with free speech. Everybody had the opportunity to voice their opinion on what was going on and going wrong in our country. This is the way it's supposed to be. You're not just supposed to be. I mean, there was a time when everybody was just happy to not know what their favorite singer or their favorite actor or their favorite comedian's politics were. We are no longer in a time like that. Everybody needs to be out there doing what's going on. They're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing. Okay? I mean, Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen cannot be the only ones doing it. Comedians on TV cannot be the only ones doing it. We need people who honestly want to live in a free country. And I'm talking about not just singers and comedians and actors. I'm talking about all artists. Use your talent to light the way. I mean, this is what happened in the 60s. The protest movements, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, all of them. They used their voice. They used their platform, their medium to uh, light the torch, to light the way. We need more people doing that. This is actually why I started doing these videos. I don't know how many people are going to see this video. Be honest with you, I hope everybody sees it, but I don't realistically expect it. But I hope that somebody who sees it, uh, I hope I make you think about it. Think about what's going on. And you got to understand, we all have a voice, all of us. We cannot just let Kid Rock be the voice. First off, I think his voice sucks. I never liked it. He had one good song, and that was made good because of Sheryl Crow. But we cannot let that side be the only voice. We have to have a counter voice. We have to have people standing up and saying, yeah, we don't agree with you. And I know not everybody agrees with me. I, I know that. And it's your constitutional right to disagree with me. You have that right. But you also must know that I am actually right. These things that are happening are not supposed to be happening in a free country. So use your voices. Like I said, Saturday, I will be out at the Martinsburg, West Virginia protest against Donald Trump. And I will be recording video on my phone and I will be attempting to share that. I'll share it either on, well, I will share it on Facebook. I will probably share it on Threads. And more than likely on Instagram, I will do my best to share it. It has the voices, the people have to be heard because no matter what Donald Trump thinks, he wants you to think, more people disagree with him than agree with him. More people disagree with his actions and antics than agree. We all know that. Nobody who watches this video is stupid. I hope you don't think I'm stupid, but there are times when I do think I'm stupid. Uh, but it's extremely important that we as a nation stand up. The majority of the people, this is what makes a democracy, majority rules. The rights of the individual are protected, but the will of the majority is supposed to prevail. Okay? The majority of Americans, I know damn well the majority of Americans are not happy with what they're seeing. Donald Trump, on day one, was supposed to end the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza. Seems to me like those wars are still going on and in many ways getting worse. They took away food from starving children in the South Sudan and medication from people with HIV/AIDS in Africa. And the guy who did it called the agency that was distributing that food and medication a criminal organization. Sorry. Elon Musk's organization is a criminal organization. Donald Trump's organization, clearly, he's adjudicated as a fraud. Okay. He was on day one going to bring down prices. I have seen I have a can of coffee over my shoulder. I'm not going to move and show it to you, but store brand Food Lion coffee, which 3 months ago would have cost about $8. I bought it on last Saturday. It cost me 14 friggin' dollars. This is not lowering prices. Past a gas station on the way home this afternoon where Donald Trump is saying gas is $1.98 a gallon. Of course, we all know that's a lie. It was $2.93 at that particular gas station. Sorry, that is not $1.98. Gas prices have been steadily rising. They did go down in this area, in the Martinsburg area, for about 3 weeks. They went down about 10 cents a gallon. But that was when it went from 317 to 217 to 207. Okay. 293 is the current price in Old Town Martinsburg. Grocery prices are going up. Egg prices have dropped a little bit, but they are fluctuating. And they're going to continue to fluctuate because now when Joe Biden had his health secretary working on combating bird flu, Donald Trump gets brainworm man in there and basically guts the department that's looking over that. We're on we are right now going on 2 weeks into hurricane season. We've already seen the problems caused by the gutting of the National Weather Service and FEMA. We have people in the Midwest and in Tennessee and Arkansas and Louisiana and Mississippi and other parts of the country that have been hit by devastating, deadly tornadoes. I'm sorry, tornadoes. And we do not have right now the FEMA to go and help these people. In fact, during the campaign, with the people who were suffering in North Carolina and Tennessee and Southwest Virginia, uh, when Trump was claiming that Joe Biden wasn't doing anything, of course, FEMA was on the ground actually helping people. He was claiming that they didn't have money in FEMA because he was giving it to illegal immigrants. Wrong. Never happened. FEMA has its own budget and always has. That budget has been gutted, almost zeroed out. Now, when a hurricane strikes Florida or the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico coast, or the East Coast of the United States, or Hawaii, or any other place that have are prone to hurricanes and devastating storms in this country, FEMA's not going to be there. And I'm going to tell you right now, I firmly believe that Southern California is going to be hit by a devastating earthquake sometime in the next 4 years. And there won't be money in FEMA to do anything about it. California will be on its own. And the same thing can happen in Oregon, in Washington, Alaska. Devastating earthquakes are a constant danger in all of those states. I know because I lived through one. I lived through the Sylmar quake in 1971. I lived in Azusa. Kind of irritated me because I was in junior high and my school was the only school around. Well, the Azusa Unified School District was the only school district in the San Gabriel Valley that I believe was open that day. That bothered me, but that earthquake, which was, I believe, a 6.5, literally threw me out of my bed. I know what it's like. The people who lived through the Northridge quake, they know that another one can happen anytime. And if it does, while Donald Trump is president, you're not going to get any help from the federal government. Fire season will be starting in Southern California. It started January 1st and will go through uh, December 31st. It used to be it was the fall when the Santa Ana winds would kick in. That was the main part of the fire season. But as we saw last December, fire season in the middle of December and into January, it's it's going to happen again. Not just in California, not just along the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of Mexico coast, and yes, I will always call it the Gulf of Mexico, mostly because the rest of the world calls it the Gulf of Mexico. You cannot change that with just an executive order, just like you cannot end birthright citizenship with an executive order. Birthright citizenship is part of the Constitution. But these storms are going to happen. And we're going to have more tornadoes through the Midwest, from Texas all the way up into Canada. It's going to happen. Everybody knows it. But there's not going to be the federal response that we had the previous 4 years. Why? Because Donald Trump and Elon Musk have basically gutted all of those services. So when people are dying from these devastating storms, nobody is going to be able to get any help. It's not going to happen. There's going to be no help coming except for from your states, and they're going to be Texas, California, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Florida. They're going to be tapped out very quickly. I mean, it's going to happen. It's not me saying it may happen. No, it's going to happen. We get tornadoes, we get earthquakes, we get hurricanes, we get devastating wildfires every year. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. The real surprise is if it doesn't happen. So believe me, folks, what's going on? None of what Donald Trump is doing, none of what any of the people in his government are doing, is making America great. It's devastating the people, and it's going to kill people. When Medicaid collapses, it's going to kill people. When SNAP is basically ripped out of people's lives, it's going to kill people, mainly children and older men, in both cases. It's going to happen. It's not an if, it's when. So I'm going to end with this. I was just watching Belshi just before I started this video, and he was talking about Cash Patel and his unqualified moronic buddy who had a reality check on in their jobs. Cash Patel, remember during the campaign when he was going to close the FBI headquarters on day one and reopen it the next day as a museum to the deep state? Now they can't even figure out what the deep state is. Jeffrey Epstein, according to Cash Patel and any other competent or any competent law enforcement or correctional officer, committed suicide. So did Maxwell. No conspiracy theory. They can't sustain that conspiracy theory because they've now seen the files and they've seen the investigation. And guess what? It was exactly as it was told. It was not some deep state operative working for the Clintons that murdered Jeffrey Epstein. Now, when Elon Musk said Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, it's like the only people who don't believe he's in the Epstein files are the maggots. They do not believe anything bad about Donnie Dipshit. The problem is everything we said bad about him is actually true. So that when they talk about the deep state, now we're talking about the same people who are claiming that deep state operatives and FBI operatives were in the crowd on January 6th egging on the rioters. No, they weren't. Donald, the deep state, first off, doesn't exist. When they're talking about the deep state, just remember what they're talking about is dedicated employees of the federal government, people who make their living serving us, the people of this country. That includes the FBI, CIA. I mean, you don't, it's not like a James Bond movie where you get a famous secret agent. They work in anonymity. They can't. And, again, for the deep state conspiracies to work, uh, the CIA would have to violate federal law, and that federal law states that the FBI cannot conduct investigations inside the United States government. That falls on the FBI or the ATF or the U.S. Marshal Service or the other federal law enforcement agency. The CIA is not a law enforcement agency. They are an intelligence gathering agency. Yes, they go armed because it's necessary, because what they do is an extremely dangerous job. Always has been. So, so when you hear about secret ops and things like that, yeah, there are secret ops. There are covert operations going on all the time. That's how they keep us safe. And the biggest threat to us right now is not uh, Venezuelan street gangs. It is American citizens who buy into the baloney of the deep state, these so-called militias, these hate groups, the Proud Boys, my favorite, the Oath Keepers. And I often called the Proud Boys, and I hope you're listening, the Proud Mama's Boys, because you are a bunch of cowards. You're a bunch of mama boy cowards who like to play act as patriots. You're not. If you were patriots, you'd be out to protect the rights of everybody, not just white everybody. That's the way real patriotism in this country works. You serve your country. And when you're serving your country, that means you're serving the United States citizens, the people of this country. And I'm going to end with this. The deep state, when you hear that thrown around, just remember that, I've been hearing about the deep state since 1962 when I was 5. First time I ever heard those words was a friend of my parents, our next door neighbor at the time, uh, talking about, well, there's some deep state conspiracy to get us involved in Vietnam. Well, at the time, if I remember my history correctly, we had already been involved in Vietnam for like, what, 3 years at that time? There was a deep state conspiracy back during the 1960 presidential campaign that uh, John Kennedy was going to be more loyal to the Pope than to the United States. This is a man who served in the Navy in World War II, something Donald Trump would have refused to do. In fact, Donald Trump's daddy refused to do. So, when you hear the deep state, just remember they're not talking about any cabal of lizard people. Yeah, they think they are. But the reality is, what they're talking about is dedicated professionals who work tirelessly to make this a better country, to make us freer, to protect our freedoms, to protect our rights, to protect our air, to protect our water, to protect the environment. That's what they are calling the deep state. People who actually work for the government to make your and my life better. So, with that, I'm going to end this. I thank you, those of you who will be watching. And like I said, if you have the ability to get out on June 14th, let's hear those voices. Let's make sure Donald Dipshit and Cash Patel and Pam Bondi and all the other people, the evil and incompetent people that Donald Trump has in his government. Let's make sure that your voices are heard. Your opposition to what's going on in our country is heard. And we have to keep up the pressure. It is working in many ways. They're trying very hard to stop it from working, but we cannot allow them to stop us. If you're at a protest and the cops show up in riot gear, and I kind of expect that this weekend, be peaceful. Do not provoke. Make them make the first move and make sure you document it. Make sure you have video of them doing the first act of violence. Now, I'm not saying don't defend yourself. I'm saying make sure they are the ones. When I say they, they're going to be agitators. The last couple of protests I went to in Martinsburg, there were some agitators, people yelling at us, flipping us off, and things like that. A couple of them were literally working very hard to provoke a reaction from us who were there protesting. Don't give into it. Make them make the first move. And like I say, defend yourself, yeah. I'm not saying roll over and get hurt. I'm saying make them be the aggressor. And I have to give kudos to the people here in Martinsburg who have been out protesting. They have remained very peaceful, very respectful. So this is what needs to be done. This is the way forward. Protest, yes. Be loud, be proud. Do not let them rest for a minute thinking that, okay, well, they've worn us down. No, we got to be loud. We got to be proud. We got to be out there every chance we have for the next 3.5 years to fight this abomination of a government. We cannot allow ourselves to be bullied into submission. We must make sure we make them uncomfortable and make it hard for them to be uh, as bad as they want to be. Okay, just, just remember, we are in charge of this country. We are, when we're out there protesting, exercising our constitutional right to peaceful assembly, the way it's supposed to be. We see what's wrong, we do something about it. So thank you very much for watching. I will be doing more of these in the future. I'm not sure exactly the timeline. I was going to try and do these every Saturday, have one come out every Saturday, but because of minor health problems I had, uh, that turned out not to be possible. But I will do these whenever I can. Uh, I still have some minor health problems that are going to need surgery to fix, but I will be continuing to use my voice and any platform that I have to protest the evil that's going on here. So thank you very much. I'll see you next time.